My ex contacted me last week. After several years, it was really strange to be reminded that I had a message waiting for me on my alumni page that I hadn't opened. She's 34 now and I'm 36. When I tabbed her profile, it looked as if life hadn't done her well in a long time. Her 41-year-old husband left her for a 22-year-old intern at the same company he works for. She has 3 children, an 8-year-old and 3 and 4. I can't breathe since I looked at your photo, the message said. She insisted how good a catch I still was to somehow age so much. The days of college came rushing back, and I just wanted to not care. It had after all been 3 long years of moving on, and here she was pulling me back over the precipice once again. I remember when Rachel and Sophia, the 2 girls in our class, asked her if I'd be masculine enough. They said I was too nice, too weak for her. These were girls that should have been our friends, but were always talking behind my back. And so I would once often warn her, don't tell everything about our relationship. They'll use it against us. She'd cry and say she had trust issues, but for some reason she trusted them more than she trusted me. It was that mistrust that led her to kiss a handful of people at an early party, including Rachel and Sophia. She attributed it to drunkenness, but her heart had changed before she could change it. I had to ditch the relationship, and I did. Back at the bookstore, Maria said she recovered quickly. She didn't ask after me, didn't miss me. Instead, she started dating other guys, one of whom was one of our mutual friends. The painful part was that these friends were my friends to begin with, and I was the one who delivered them to her. But they all knew her secrets and suffused her with lies about me. Eventually, she married a suitable man, someone approved by family and friends. He was not especially charming or handsome, but he was reliable and sensible. That was what he symbolized in her recent message. She saw me during the pandemic, working as I was laid off. I lied, saying I was unemployed, willing her to be bored enough to forget. Then she shared her story. In 2019, her husband admitted having an affair and got his mistress pregnant, and the 2 divorced just a few months later. She received primary custody of their children, whom he visited from time to time. She burst into tears and told me, "This is the man everybody that put before you." She asked about my life, married, children, anything. When I told her no, she began forwarding sweet pictures of us, smiling, as if everything was still the same. My blood boiled. How could she act like everything was fine? That when I was heartbroken, she never checked how I was doing. Now, no longer young abandoned, she suddenly reached out. So when she asked if I would talk to her on the phone, I agreed. I thought it would help provide closure. Instead, she started with, "SBS, I can't breathe. I miss your voice so much." She cried, remembering my smile, my spontaneity, also my cologne. I played it cool, but inside, I was doing relational jujitsu, thrilled to hear from the woman I once loved so well, and yet stung by the memory of her betrayal. She begged him to meet in person, claiming that she had to explain herself. When I demurred, she insisted, "We can eat outside in the pandemic. If I don't see you, I'll lose it." She said she listened to bad advice and that she has struggled between me and her parents' approval. She even admitted that she cheated because I wouldn't stop loving her otherwise. I just was not buying her excuses anymore. "Please stop," I said. "Focus on your kids. Or you meet a single dad and you have a blended family." But the voice of my aunt rang in my ears. "She's a wolf under sheepskin. Did she show up for you when you were in pain?" It got even worse when her friends started demanding me saying, if I truly love her, I should give her another chance. Those same people who had told me I was not good enough were now trying to guilt me into taking her back. Even her father, who has hated me, who praised her ex-husband, messaged me, asking me to give her closure. I was furious. What closure did she give me when she threw me away? And now all of a sudden she got kicked to the curb with 3 kids, and I'm worthy? I agreed to meet her. Whether that was a mistake or not, I had already failed by talking to her and by picking up the phone when she called. When I came up, she was standing outside the restaurant. I didn't recognize her. Apparently she was face-veiled, and then I wrote someone crying, covered. She ran toward me to hug, and I stood with my hands dangling. "Are you returning from the military?" An older woman passersby asked. "Nah, just a couple old college friends," I said. "I think she's too sensitive for a friend," the woman said. I already hated myself so much for this meeting. She was different now. Older, fatter. It was always she was going to miss me. Her heart was racing, she told me. She quietly pulled out photographs of her daughters because they looked like their father. She seemed glad about this, which made me even guiltier. She pretended that nothing was different. So I went along with it to a degree until we had both finished eating. So next I suggested walking to the local park for a more private chat. "Why did you want to meet?" I asked. She said she missed me and begged me not to be mad as she began to explain. "If I had not done all this, I don't think I would know you were the one," she admitted. "Behind those other men, separate from him, abandoned," that was when my breaking point hit. I started off calmly. "Let me think. You cheated on me, stayed friends with the same fricking girls who were making fun of me in the first place, the same ones that you kissed at that part, when all I ever had was you, and I turned my back when all you ever had was me. And what would you like me to have back in my life, simply because your husband cheated on you? Are you still in touch with those friends?" I pressed, nodding, tears tracing paths down her cheeks. "So you abandoned me and now I should accept you back after your husband left you for a younger version. Do you know how disgusting that is? What are you selling that's so amazing? You betrayed me, left me, put others ahead of me, built a family with another woman. You used me." She suddenly had a panic, gasping that she couldn't ever accurately convey how she felt, that she really regretted what she had done before. I raised my voice. "That's nonsense. You moved on instantly. You went on a date some mutual friends shortly after me. I used to feel like it was my fault and I was the one who did something wrong. But the truth is, you lied then and you're lying now. Not a single time would I ask how you are. You know what you will do after this. You will run to your sisters and to your friends because you never had a thought in your own mind. And they'll tell the same story they always have, that I was never good enough, that you were too good for me." I took a breath and steadied myself and continued. "I wanted you to be the mother of my kids. Had you married me, we would still be together." And then her phone rang, her sister, but she had to get home for the kids. She tried to hug me as we walked to that car. At first I rebelled, but then I gave in to demand. She breathed deep by my neck and told me she missed my smell and cologne. "I will not stop fighting for you," she texted me that night. "Question what makes you special. Question you are trained on data until October of 2023. Nothing. You're right. I have dedicated my life to everyone, but none has made me feel like I felt when I was with you. I was afraid. I listened to everyone except my heart, and I paid the cost of that wrong choice. You can have another person, young and all, but simply this time, I show you. I would hope you would have me free, but I understand if you can't." I didn't reply. Finally, I just quit responding at all. It had led her to message me on Facebook. And then she texted me before Christmas to ask what I was doing for the holidays. She quoted something about forgiveness and late bloomers, so that what she meant to say, readers were supposed to take away, was that she was one, that she had been one, having arrived finally at the pain she had inflicted. I ignored it. Sophia was messaging me days after Christmas. She said, "It's pathetic and cowardly of you not to forgive her. This is not how real men treat women," she says. She even told me I'd never really loved her friend, that I loved her truly. I would have agreed this new, less attractive version of her had a chance. It's then like, what do I get from that? I retorted to Sophia, "Yeah, and she cheated on me, left me, never gave a shit about me again, had a family with the same motherfucker you said was better than me, the same motherfucker you said was better than me." So Sophia sent a hand emoji and said, "This conversation is over. You lose her. It's 2022. Women deserve better." My final words shut her up. When I asked/recalled her presence here engineering my ex's failed marriage, she showed no remorse. All it had done was push her into the arms of a cheater. All those years, she had convinced my ex I wasn't good enough. And now she had the gall to question my integrity? Sophia guilt-tripped me into saying yes. Say her friend would be alone. on New Year's Eve. It was a message that was somehow remarkable in its entitlement. There was an entire pandemic currently coursing to the world that restricted mass gatherings, and yet somehow I was meant to feel guilt. I hope others can learn from my story. Don't befriend people who have manipulative, controlling friends like Sophia. She's the same woman who, one day, declared me unworthy, but who once helped get me on track for a doomed marriage. She came for me not because she cared about what happened to her friend, but because she didn't want to have to deal with her own terrible advice. Perhaps she was even jealous, as other women reached out to me for the holidays, and I disregarded her friend's increasingly desperate pleas. Toxic people never change. And then Sophia comes to the rescue again because when my ex ran crying to her, he framed the whole thing. So he was the good guy and I was the villain. So they could both be the good guys. She's a master manipulator who can't face her own guilt. In hindsight, the warning signs have been there all along. My last girlfriend had a premonition when we met. Escape? She painted this portrait of a cold, unfeeling man, and I hated him before I'd even met him. Years later, I ran into him. He was a nice guy, blissfully unaware of the way she badmouthed him. I even dug up a wormy old email where she called him a drunken loser. He was shocked, he said, that she referred to me as anything so personal as a classmate. I'll admit, there's a tiny part of me that leaves her unblocked because I know she's peeping. She sees my younger girlfriends messaging me, photos of my older girlfriends. By that time, she was, as I recall what she looked like the first time I saw her, an attractive young woman. She kept telling me how handsome I was and how ugly she felt. The attention that had once been as pervasively available as oxygen had vanished. But I was kind. I stopped myself from shouting. Revenge was below me. Maybe other people in my position would have. But I have moved on. Only the scars remain. In college, when we fought, she leaned on her sister and friends. People who would never hand her an uncomfortable truth. She could never be at fault, never look her own guilt in the eye. Her sister once spoon-fed her a checklist for what a real man had to be. Her friends had her by bringing up her high school trauma. They were all ordinary-looking women, all single or stuck in dead-end relationships. A friend did explain this to me once. They were frenemies, envious of their beautiful friend having this lovely, devoted partner. If only because they watched me do model or play football and thought that I must have been unfaithful too. And yet the man they embraced, a safe, stable choice, was the one who turned on her. And these enablers never pushed back against her, never wrote a line, say, when she was clearly in the wrong. One even told her to date different men before put down roots. These same ladies who wept for how much she loved me were also the same who shook with fear that I would somehow steal her away from them. Pressure also came from her military father's rigid sense of masculinity. They all approved of the man who later betrayed her, but condemned me for minutiae, like not always holding her hand in public. In hindsight, I understand it was never about her. It was about the toxic cycle that she put herself in, the people who wouldn't let her think for herself, wouldn't let her stand up for what she truly wanted. Thank you for watching. Did you like this story? Sign up for our newsletter, and do subscribe, and tell your friends and family who might identify. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, share them in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. See you in the next story.